Episode 147. Interview with Zinu on Darknet Market Maximalism. This episode is in English, so for my usual German-speaking audience, if you don't understand English, sorry, there's nothing I can do to help you here. But for the wider audience, I think this should be pretty interesting because Max and I discuss Darknet Market Maximalism with Zinu, the author of the Darknet Market Maximalism Manifesto. Not only do we talk about the manifesto itself, but we also dive deeper into the cypherpunk visions and prospects for the future. This is a good one. I hope you enjoy. You will find all of the links in the show notes. Go and subscribe to the Anti-Moonboy podcast by Zinu. And with that, have fun. Welcome, Max Wonderland, and welcome our special guest, Zinu. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time. I think it's such a testament to the advanced day we live in that we can record over 3 continents, like in perfect real time, have a conversation about cyberspace topics, and it really this really special to me. So thanks everybody for being here.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. So for those people that don't know, shame on you first. Zinu is the author of the Darknet Market Maximalism Manifesto that we discussed a few episodes ago, and also has a great podcast, the Anti-Moonboy podcast, and like a Breaking Monero series reboot called Attack of the Poisoned Outputs. And so very deeply immersed into the Monero ecosystem. You vocalized 2 talks on the most recent MoneroCon, and I really enjoyed those talks. So thank you for doing that, first of all. And just in general, it's really special to me to be talking to you today because I listened to your podcast, and when you announced the Darknet Market Maximalism Manifesto, I was really excited. And then when it dropped, I listened to it and I kind of had this feeling, sometimes you read a book or you hear a thought verbalized and you're like, yes, that's exactly what I was thinking, but I couldn't put so succinctly into words. And I had that feeling with Darknet Market Maximalism. I just listened to it 2 hours ago in preparation for the show. And also the second time around, you get these new nuggets that I didn't quite catch on the first try. So first of all, thank you for writing this piece and producing it so well that you also had an audio book. You had a super sleek cover. And yeah, I think it's a really well done piece.
Yeah, thank you for those kind words, man. That means a lot. I think that there's a lot of people that are like us that feel like something's wrong with cryptocurrency right now, where slowly it's been overtaken by these vultures who really just care about making money. All of that, all of that power that cryptocurrency had, that aura that it had, it doesn't really exist anymore. And now it's just like some CNBC roundtable where people are talking about Bitcoin. Oh, is it going to go to 150,000? It's just like, okay. I don't really care about that. I care about, having an open source alternative to fiat. You know what I mean? And I think that there's a lot of people like me. And so, yeah, that was kind of the impetus for not only Darknet Market Maximalism, but also my channel Anti-Moonboy, where we're kind of bringing the culture back to cryptocurrency and to peer-to-peer cash. Partly it's inspired by the fact that on YouTube, there's all these channels about Linux. There's Mental Outlaw, for example. It's a really great and vibrant community of nerds, but also people who aren't even really that nerdy that are getting into Linux. And I think, why not have that for cryptocurrency as well? We need more of that. And so, I'm really not surprised that so many people are liking Darknet Market Maximalism, because I think a lot of people are thinking it as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, 100%. So I'm really curious about this because, a lot of people are doing podcasts. This is like not that novel of a thought to have, but writing a paper like you did with the manifesto, this is kind of very uncommon. So I'm curious, like what gave you the impact to do that in the first place? To okay, sit down and I'm gonna do a first draft and review it and work on it and like make it really solid.
I don't really remember, to be honest. The thing is, I like to read, and I've always been a pretty good writer, and I think that part of it is just like me wanting to describe something in a way that is creative, that allows me to be creative, instead of just making like a walkthrough video on YouTube. This is something that you can kind of throw on in a lot of different situations. Like you go for a walk, or you know, maybe you're on your computer with your headphones on or whatever. And having like an audiobook, it again, it's like a podcast, but a more refined podcast, I guess. So
Hmm.
that's kind of what I was going for, to kind of do something like that. But also, there's not really a lot of cypherpunk writings like at all, really. Like yeah, you got like the cypherpunk manifesto, but a lot of cypherpunk ideology is buried in IRC chats, right? It's kind of like or like in person conversations. It's not like written down kind of thing. It's not like libertarian philosophy or whatever. Which is kind of part of the novelty of it, where you kind of have to like lurk. You got to lurk more to like understand it. So like I wanted to like establish something like that where I can add something that like people can point to as like a rallying cry that kind of summarizes our ideology, which in this case is like we're here for the peer-to-peer cash. And why not lean into this criticism that only like terrorists or whatever want to use cryptocurrency? Well, like let's just lean into it and call ourselves darknet market maximalists.
Very
Yeah.
great idea. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and true. Like
And
formulating, like talking on a podcast is like if you're talking live. Like sometimes you miss like some information if you like sit down and write a book or like a manifesto like you did. I think that helps like to really like um bring down some point or like really like think about what you want to say. And I think that's part of it why it is like so good. And like Alex also said, or like already said, it's like when you hear it or like read some things and you're like, wow, yeah, that's like a thought I had myself, but I never like verbalized it that way. And it's like kind of like novel to hear it like speaking out that good or on point.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I worked quite hard on it because I knew that this is my chance to I guess like convince people of my argument. And so, what better way to do that than to like write well?
Yeah.
To like show that you're not just some AI like kitty who's just typing in, oh, I want to write this AI, and like it'll like spit out like a paragraph for you. Like you got to have soul, right? And
Yeah, true.
yeah, so I felt like like I can't think of like many other in general too. Journalism in cryptocurrency is atrocious. It's just like it's like really really bad. To be honest with you, AI journalism is an improvement over what we have now, like in cryptocurrency. So I'm not even joking. Like it's actually like that bad, where it's just like bottom of the barrel people who just are talking about price. They have no concept of the meta going on. They have no concept of like the play going on between the state and people who are using peer-to-peer cash. In fact, they don't even care about that, right? So I looking at the bar is low is what I'm trying to say. And like I want to like really bring some prestige back to this, where we're like actually taking this seriously and not just treating this like some Michael Saylor cash grab.
yeah, and I mean, you say the bar is low, but I mean there were some when you titled your paper a manifesto, and there were some excellent manifestos in the past, especially out of the cypherpunk movement, like the Cypherpunk Manifesto, the Crypto Anarchist Manifesto, and even the Satoshi White Paper. In a sense, I mean, it's very technical and describes a protocol, but nevertheless, it has this spirit of, hey, you can have a peer-to-peer electronic cash system without a trusted third party. And yeah, so I think like your addition is very valuable in that line of manifestos and papers. And it also motivated me to like, hey, I have some ideas. Why don't I also try to write them down on paper or like on a computer, I guess, and like try to flesh out the arguments a little bit more and have this piece that, you know, you put a lot of work in and it lasts the test of time, like the Cypherpunk manifesto or the Crypto Anarchist manifesto. Like a few episodes ago, Max and I read through the Crypto Anarchist manifesto, and it's astonishing the predictions that Timothy C. May was able to do in the early 90s about the impact of the technology that was just like on the horizon visible, and he was able to predict the future to a high degree of precision in that regard.
Oh, it's incredible. Yeah, like I actually kind of have a funny story about that. When I was like first writing Darknet Market Maximalism, I was getting a little cocky. Like I was reading this like, oh, this is really good. And so then I was like, all right,
I see that.
Yeah, I was like, all right, let's compare this to the Cypherpunk manifesto. I swear this is a true story. So I threw that on. And I'm like, all right, come on, it's got to be at least level to it. And man, I got such a reality check. Like I felt like I got like body slammed by how like freaking good that manifesto is. It's just like it's succinct. It predicts everything. Like it frankly, it feels like someone who just like actually saw 30 years in the future, knew exactly what was going on, and said, "Hey guys, this is what's going to happen. It's going to happen anyways. So we have to like at least form a niche community to like fight back against this, because if we don't, like we're screwed." It's brilliant. One of the greatest pieces of work of internet culture probably ever. And I like how you also mentioned the white paper by Satoshi, because that would probably be number two. Again, just like insane, like how forward thinking it was and how challenging it was. And yeah, I mean, it's created this entire like movement, a lot of which has sucked, but it's still like us on the fringe, like we're still like trying to continue it on. And so yeah, I'm excited that more people are seeing this now, right? I really think that a project like Monero really encapsulates that, because I think a lot of people in Monero at least are pretty jaded. Not everybody though. I mean, we have Moon Boys in Monero as well,
For
which
sure.
which we have to like push back against. But at the end of the day, it's nice knowing that there are people around the world who have like that similar that shared ideology of I mean darknet market maximalism, you can call it, or cypherpunkism, where we're using peer-to-peer cash as a means of protest.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean by jaded? Can you define that word? I'm not too familiar with it.
Kind of like how do I say, like you're kind of uh like you're upset about things that are happening because you can't stop it. So it's kind of like you're kind of just like frustrated. You're
Yeah.
kind of
Okay.
yeah, frustrated would probably be a similar a synonym there.
Yeah.
So someone who's like, so for example, like I'm jaded about Bitcoin because it's been overtaken by Moon Boys and people like Michael Saylor. And that makes me
Mm-hmm.
jaded about the project because, it's, yes, there are still cypherpunks and Bitcoin, but they're they're drowned out by the laser eyes.
Yeah, yeah, true. And like you open your manifesto this way as well, that the cryptocurrency culture has kind of been subverted by this moonboyism. And when I listened to it just now, I thought this was kind of ironic that the cryptocurrency or the cypherpunk culture, which itself is kind of like a subversive culture, right? Like you start encrypting everything and using cyberspace as a means to evade the state. And now this itself becomes subverted by a different stream of culture. And I'm really curious on your take. Like, do you think this is just a natural thing that as price rises and people see, oh my God, my friend who I met in high school is now a millionaire because of Bitcoin, I should invest in this too? Or do you think like nowadays, especially with the Michael Saylor, this is more a controlled psyop where you try to steer, like put blinders on people and like let them only look at the price chart? Or do you think it's a combination of both? Like, what's your take on where this subversive stream in the cryptocurrency ecosystem comes from?
Yeah, I mean that's a lot there. I mean, on the one hand, there's definitely like a human element where people are kind of just drawn to like populism, and like kind of drawn to like number go up as an example of that. So, if you look at like democracy in general, like that's why you kind of have this like just lowering like quality of like politics around like the Western world, because it's just like the common denominator of people is just dumber and dumber every year, right? And so it's kind of like that with cryptocurrency, where as you get more and more people coming into it, like the threshold of like what like they care about is just lower and lower, to now where that bar is just that number go up. Like that's the bar of like joining Bitcoin. It's not about like censorship resistance or open source software, right? I would, in fact, I would imagine that like if you took like a survey of like the last 1,000 people to buy Bitcoin, like probably like 900 of them are just there to get rich. Probably more, to be honest with you. I don't think people are using it to like send money to somebody else without people stopping it. Like that peer-to-peer cash to them is an afterthought. Now regarding Michael Saylor, yeah, it's an interesting point that he very well could be some sort of psyop. There's a lot of weird stuff with him. Like weird, like I can't even put my finger on it weird. Like you go to his Twitter page and it's like this like almost like inhuman way of like tweeting. Clearly he's not running his Twitter account. Like it's like I don't know who it is, but like seriously, go to his Twitter and he like posts these like weird AI images of himself.
Yes.
It's like what the hell is he doing? It's not funny. It's really cringe. And like I don't know who he's trying to appeal to. A lot of it is too, it's like offensive. Like if you're like religious, he's like posting like religious stuff. It's like, what? Like I'm not really understanding like what the whole point is. And furthermore, like if you look through his history, like he's just like a weird dude, like doesn't really have a family, He was part of this whole .com bubble thing, and he got off with like a sweetheart deal. I don't know, man. There's a lot of weird stuff there. I would not be surprised if like there's some like weird, state actor pulling the strings kind of situation. I wouldn't put it past the government to do something like this. Or he's just a piece of garbage who is scamming people, which is also very plausible. It's highly plausible. Like, I actually saw a interview with him. I think it was on like 60 Minutes or some sort of like CBS program, and he was talking about the internet. This is during the .com bubble, so it was like a clip from him like 25 years ago, and he's like using the same language as he does with Bitcoin, right? Because when he talks about Bitcoin, if you weren't aware, he's like, oh, it's a digital shield, or like digital energy. The energy of the Bitcoin is going to change the world. We're all going to run on Bitcoin, right? And then he's back then when he was talking about the .com bubble, he's like, the internet is the elixir of, I don't even know. Like it was like some ridiculous, seriously, look it up. Like he was doing this back like 25 years ago. Oh. And so I think he's just he's a swindler anyways. So I don't know if it's just him or if it's the government working with him. But either option is plausible, but the whole thing just stinks, right? It's just terrible, the situation. And for what it's worth, I think that chapter on Saylor is going to age very well, because I do not see his MicroStrategy, swindle that he's doing with these, high dividend things, the options he's given out. Like, I think that's all going to collapse upon itself if Bitcoin doesn't keep going up in price. So hopefully he gets chased out of cryptocurrency soon. That would be beneficial for everybody except for the Moon Boys, I guess. But man, he's a piece of garbage.
To me,
you're so spot on with his Twitter pics. It looks like some boomer who discovered that, oh my God, I can generate AI images of myself, and then he puts himself in like Superman costume with the Bitcoin logo on the front.
See, that's the thing. At first I was like, okay, he's just an out of touch boomer. Like that's completely reasonable. But like he kept doing it. It doesn't seem right. You know what I mean? It's kind of like if you've been on the internet long enough, you can tell if somebody is a bot. Right? Like you can see just the way they're talking, like even if it's in like a IRC or whatever, like you can kind of tell if someone's not like authentic. And it's gotten worse and worse over time, right? Because like, the dead internet theory, there's probably like a lot of bots that we're
Mhm.
communicating with general. Like but when I hear Sailor talk, it does feel like some sort of like bot or AI thing. It just something's weird about it. I don't know if I'm the only one, but like there's something inauthentic about him, and I think that we can agree with.
I,
Yeah.
like the last interview I saw from him, or like one of his last talks, he seemed like I don't know, like an artist that got too popular and got corrupted by, I don't know, wealth and might or something. So I don't know if there's something shady going on in the background. And yeah, but like from what he like when he like talks about certain things and then like about the monetary system, and he's like very like spot on, and it feels kind of like he really like believes this. But then it seemed to me like he is also at some point realizing again that he has, I don't know, like some dependencies he needs to adhere to or something, and then needs to, I don't know, like tone down certain things or something.
Yeah.
Well,
And to
yeah,
me,
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
to me, like from what he talks about, what he puts the emphasis on, you can really tell he's not a crypto anarchist. He doesn't believe in what we three here believe in, like what the value brought forward, the utility brought forward by cryptocurrency is. For him, it's just like, oh, it's like a fixed supply asset, You buy it, demand goes up, supply can't go up, so price is bound to go up. And if you have to regulate it, well, then regulate it. But what it's meant to be used for, it's like totally not in his vision even. He only sees it in terms of like, I have a company, I like get my reserve for this company with Bitcoin, and like this is very innovative. But yeah, and this makes me not trust him to begin with. Like, if at least he were to parrot the talking points of cypherpunks, then I could understand people getting fooled by it. But yeah, it's all about number go up, the price, like investment vehicles and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy who has openly talked down about self custody of cryptocurrency. Like he views it as antiquated.
Yeah.
He in fact encourages just keeping your Bitcoin on exchanges. And that's really where Moonboyism is heading, where like holding Bitcoin is now considered, or it's the narrative is that holding Bitcoin is risky because you don't want to be wrench attacked. Oh, I'll just have like,
Mm-hmm.
a bank hold on to it. This is the progression that's happening. And so he doesn't care about this peer-to-peer cash that we care about. And the other thing too is I don't know if you guys have listened to his like earnings calls and stuff for MicroStrategy. It'll make your head spin. I mean, they're talking about these like he has this new thing called Stride, which is this like 10% annual yield that you can buy, but he can just turn off the yield at any point. Like so yeah, I'm serious. And I'm like looking at this like, wait, hold on, where's the yield coming from? And the thing is, the yield is coming from the people who are buying the stock. It's like literally a pyramid scheme. And if the thing is, it's backed by the Bitcoin he's holding, which he hasn't even proved that he's holding, right? Because he's not putting out
Yeah.
anything that he's holding. I'm like pretty convinced that this is all going to collapse upon itself, especially if the Bitcoin price doesn't keep rising, because he's putting out these junkier and junkier stocks that why would you buy that where I get a 10% yield, but he could just turn it off at any time. It literally says that. It's crazy.
Yeah, true.
So,
Oh wow. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would your what do you think would the scenario look like? Like of like MicroStrategy, like at some point maybe we have like a little bit of a economic collapse or something that kind of like triggers like MicroStrategy that they need to sell some Bitcoin or something,
well,
or just
sorry.
just another or maybe someone like verifies the amount MicroStrategy has like for them, or leaks like the amount, and it's like visible that they don't really have the amount they should have. So
Well, I'll start with the second one first.
yes,
I mean, like him at that Bitcoin conference, like his answer to proof of reserves is insane.
yes,
Like he goes on this rambling, nonsensical, like, oh, the security will be hurt, or I don't even know what he's talking about. It's like, dude, it's a public ledger. That's the whole point. Like it doesn't make any sense. Here's the problem, okay? If they actually sell any Bitcoin, it would cause a feedback loop, a negative feedback loop,
Yeah.
where other people are going to sell, and then he's stuck. So like the thing is, these dividends that he's putting out, where he like owes people money and stuff, he only owes money, or the money he's owed, or the money he owes, the collateral for it is the Bitcoin. So if he actually has to like pay these people and he doesn't have any money, like cash on the side, he'll then have to sell the Bitcoin. And once people see that he's selling Bitcoin, then that's going to cause a cascading effect, and it's going to be terrible. Now, when I don't know when it's going to happen. It doesn't seem like to me like this bull run is going to last much longer. I mean, I say that in the next week, Bitcoin could be like $300 million. This is how it works. But like in all seriousness, like momentum is low. People aren't really that excited right now. Like the economy, I don't know how to even describe the economy right now. It's like clown world. So who the heck knows? But like if we see Bitcoin like fizzle back down, he's made a lot of these promises that are based on Bitcoin's upward price movement mirroring the past. And what we're seeing is we're having diminishing returns. So if it's not going to be doing that, like you're going to have people, frustrated with him. And I do think it eventually will reach a head where he's going to start doing like, he's going to be offering like even junkier stocks to like get more liquidity, or I don't know, he's going to be like not responding to certain things, and it's going to just look worse and worse until everything collapses upon itself. Bitcoin, because guy has been worshipped for the past 5 years now, where he's like Sam SBF, he's like SBF, but like 10 times the size of that. Just considering how his face has been plastered on every single Bitcoin conference over the past 3 years. I mean, they worship this guy, and they essentially are worshiping a fraud. Which is pretty funny, but it's also really devastating because like a lot of people are going to lose money. It's just a fact. So.
Yeah, I really like also the analogy you make in the manifesto to the Pied Piper. And Max and I, independently of you, also had this thought that Saylor is like, in Germany, it's called the Rattenfänger from Hameln, which is like the rat catcher of Hameln, which is like a city. And the story goes, the rat catcher goes into the city and they have a rat problem, probably because of the bubonic plague. And like he plays the flute and all the rats follow him. And then the city doesn't want to pay him. And as a revenge, he goes in and plays the flute and steals all of the children. But so this brings me kind of to the point. So the children in this analogy would be the Moon Boys, right? They get tranced by his talk of elixirs and digital assets and like digital time or whatever his latest analogy is. And they say, okay, if Saylor says I should custody my Bitcoin, then I'm going to custody my Bitcoin. And this to me is like the very obvious marker of moving away from the cypherpunk ethos. Like if you say, oh, I heard through Michael Saylor about Bitcoin, I'm going to buy some and put them on my hardware wallet, whatever. Yeah, okay, we can argue about the KYC stuff. It's very terrible, but at least you're self-custodying. But when you are not even self-custodying, like you have gained nothing. Like you are still trusting a third party. And this made me think of this phrase in the DarkFi manifesto, another great manifesto that the listeners should definitely check out, where they talk about this dichotomy between RegFi, so regulated finance, and DarkFi, which is the underground, like the cypherpunk finance. And to paraphrase it, it basically goes like, oh, RegFi will be bolted down, it will be toothless, and DarkFi will have a bite. And yeah, to me, like when you are going so far into this RegFi system, really, you have gained nothing. Like you're using Bitcoin and maybe your app shows you the Bitcoin logo behind your balance, but really like it's not your coins even.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just gone away from what Bitcoin was. It's just slowly but surely they've kind of eaten away at it. And yeah, like you see this with a lot of different things. There's this meme image I saw once about like something that becomes popular, like a video game. So you have like your core group of people who play the video game, and then you're one of your friends invites another friend over who's like not as interested. He's kind of doing some other stuff, but you guys are all like, yeah, come in. Like, you want everyone to enjoy the game. But then that guy who's like detached from your friends group, he brings other people in, and those other people are like, people who just don't really care at all about the culture you guys have started. And eventually, the overwhelming majority of the people there are going to just be like the people who just don't care about the culture. And now you're kind of like pushed to the side. You and your like three friends who started this video game or whatever, you're now by yourselves, surrounded by people who just like don't care. And I think essentially that's happened with Bitcoin, where it's gone from this world changing very awesome technology into this neutered tech stock essentially. And also to add too, like with Michael Saylor, like he's so entrenched in Bitcoin right now that a lot of prominent Bitcoiners are either afraid to criticize him or they agree with him, which is worse. Like, you know what I mean? Like you have like influencers like who are not like saying, "Hey, screw this guy." They're like, "Well, we can work with them. He's doing the right thing." It's like, no, you gotta cut this guy out. He's a swindler. He's a Pied Piper. He's basically convincing people to buy into Bitcoin without like explaining why they should be, other than number go up, which is really really bad.
Yeah.
It's kind of like he's leaning them to slaughter really. And if the price doesn't go up, like what happens? Like you don't have your idealism there. That's kind of the thing with like Monero. Like I'm not like invested in Monero really. If the price doesn't go up, like there's actually negative things about that, like with the mining network, not as many coders working on it, developers and stuff like that. Those are positive things with like the price going up. Plus, I can buy more things, right? But if like the price were to go to zero, I would still have my idealism, right? I would still be a cypherpunk who cares about digital cash. The Moon Boys, they don't have that luxury, because if the price doesn't go up, they're over leveraged and they've lost everything. In some cases, people are like way over leveraged too, and it's really sad because some people they get convinced by some fraud like Saylor, and it's kind of just how it works. I mean, there's a lot of sailors out there too. It's not just him. Well, I'm pointing him out because he's the most prominent figure. But if Saylor were to go, there'd just be another guy there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to think like about a German Bitcoin influencer that goes into the direction. I mean, he's not as bad as Saylor yet, but I mean, it's
Who do you
like
mean? Name.
the block trainer.
Oh,
Because
yeah,
like
yeah.
I mean, he's not really like, he's partially like recommending like custodial stuff. I mean, he still has like, I mean, I'm respecting him for like all the Austrian economics stuff and about like the monetary system. He can explain this very well, and it's very like hardcore focused on that. So I don't see him like getting corrupted as much as Saylor is, but he's very close, I feel like, with like all his KYC stuff he recommends and so on. And
Yeah. I had an interview with him and I asked him about this. Like the interview was framed as Bitcoin and Monero, like how do the two compare? And like he doesn't talk about Monero ever. He talks about Bitcoin only, and very much in the same vein as there is no second best. And so I asked him, like, what do you think about all the KYC stuff and the regulatory overtaking Bitcoin and like subverting Bitcoin? And he straight up told me, "Oh, I went to a dinner with Michael Saylor, and Michael Saylor told me basically he agrees with us." Yeah, us meaning like anarchists and whatever. And Bitcoin is just a Trojan horse. And of course, you can't go to the regulator and tell them like, we're going to replace the dollar or whatever. Like they're never going to go for it. So therefore, what he wants to tell me is basically Michael Saylor is doing the act of like bending the knee and like regurgitating the talking points of the government so that they won't regulate Bitcoin too strongly or whatever. And then Bitcoin as the Trojan horse will just make the state obsolete. And I think it's so diluted. Like once you have all of this regulatory infrastructure in place, these KYC laws, the travel rule, the Financial Action Task Force, the OFAC, and all of this cannot be simply like it won't implode like this. And I think you have to fight these regulatory attacks. And in the like, if you can't really fight the attacks head on by repealing the laws or whatever, you have to create a technology that inherently is resistant to these kinds of attacks. And yeah, but so I agree. It's unfortunately in the German Bitcoin space, this Michael Saylor vein is very strong of there is no second best, number go up. I simply hodl, I buy my hardware wallet. Sure, I KYC my Bitcoin, but hey, I won't spend them anyway. And if I want to spend some, I just use Wallet of Satoshi and the Lightning Network because it's so great. And I mean, yeah, it just makes me shake my head.
I mean, Saylor just bragged about using fiat to buy pizza on Bitcoin Pizza Day. Like, did you guys see that? Like, he doesn't get it. Like, and I mean, that was called out by like some people, but like what was much worse is like how many people supported that. It's like, ugh, like the whole point of Bitcoin Pizza Day is using your Bitcoin. And this guy is subverting it into no, we're just going to use fiat. We're not going to use Bitcoin. It's like, but then why even have Bitcoin at that point? It's just a tech stock now. It's just
digital energy.
Yeah, it's a shield to protect against the I don't even know, man. Like, yeah, his metaphors they get like cringier and cringier, and also like he really keeps putting in like 21 everywhere. The number 21 in 21 years, 21% of Bitcoin will be owned by me. $21 million.
It's like a religion.
Even know, man. It really is. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm really curious about this because when I listened to your manifesto, it seemed to me that you criticize the Moon Boys even more than the state attacks. You know, like the Moon Boys are the oblivious kind of bumbling idiots who don't really know what this is all about, and they just follow the money, so to say, in the sense that they want to get rich. But the state, to me, like to complete this analogy, would be they know what this is about. They know that cryptocurrency is there to make them obsolete, to take away their power that they have gained through the printing press. And they are hell-bent on destroying that competitor to their power. So do you really think that Moon Boys are like the bigger obstacle to cypherpunks, or is it the state?
Well, I think they go hand in hand. I mean, the state is overall the bigger problem. But the Moon Boys are their tool that they use, whether the Moon Boy knows it or not. You know, it's kind of like what the state does is they subvert groups that they don't like, right? And so in this case with cryptocurrency, they've really promoted this number go up narrative. That's why, like in the media, you don't see people talking about like uncensorable digital cash on CNBC. No, they're talking about, oh, Bitcoin, I wonder if it's going to beat the price projections. It's meaningless. So, I mean, I do agree with you that, yeah, the state is the bigger issue. And unfortunately, Moon Boys are really just like regular people who kind of just get like pushed into this whole cryptocurrency thing. And then they treat cryptocurrency like it's this game where you're supporting a team, this like tribalism kind of thing. Funny with Saylor too, like he's not even really promoting Bitcoin as much as he's promoting his company now. Like he posts charts on his Twitter account of MicroStrategy outperforming everything, including Bitcoin. It's like, wait, what? Why are we here? And so, yeah, you're starting to see that where you're having these companies come in to like replicate what Michael Saylor has started. And I mean, if it's easy to replicate, it's probably easy to fail, So So yeah, I mean, with the state, like it's kind of like they don't even really have to do that much. I mean, yeah, maybe Michael Saylor is some sort of asset. I wouldn't be surprised. But really, all they have to do is kind of just like make the system the way it is with like fiat, right? Have this system integrated. Yes, you have lobbyism going on, and kind of just let the free market do its thing. It's kind of how it works, right? And in this case, it's kind of just this is how capitalism kind of works. People are drawn to getting rich, and if you control information, you can kind of push people towards your narrative. And I think that's ultimately what the state is doing with like the media and stuff, where they can essentially control information. If you control that, then you can essentially form opinions of people, whether they realize it or not.
It's sad that like so many people get stuck at like the first gatekeeper basically, and are like maybe they feel like they see that there's a problem with like the monetary system, or like something's going on here and something needs to change, but then they basically only get hooked by, oh, just buy this tech stock and you'll be fine and you're gonna be rich someday, and then they're, oh, okay, fine, problem solved. And it's like, no, you idiot, it's so much more, or it was so much more. And yeah,
I want to talk about this crackdown of the state a little bit more. Recently, we've seen the takedown of Archetype Market, which was at that point the biggest darknet market. And at the point of writing in your manifesto, Archetype was still operational. And to me, this kind of comes down to the question, are darknet markets as they exist currently really viable, really future-proof? Or is it only always like living on borrowed time, so to say? Because you have this centralized server infrastructure that when it gets taken down, it's offline. And eventually, you're going to make a mistake in your OPSEC, or you're going to be malicious and exit scam, or like White House Market, you're going to have the wisdom to say, okay, enough is enough. I'm going to let it rest now. But then eventually the markets shut down. And so I'm wondering, what's your take on this? Is it like, will we always have this perpetual turnstile of markets coming and going, or is there a better alternative?
Yeah, I mean it's a cat and mouse game, right? And yeah, I am more on the turnstile kind of approach because that's just kind of how it works. With Archetype Market, this is an interesting one because this guy had pretty good OPSEC. I've loosely followed them on Dread, and I mean this guy he was pretty good compared to a lot of other darknet people. It was Monero only. A lot of the stuff they're doing with these markets on Tor is the most up to date OPSEC that they're doing. But at the same time, if you're hosting an illegal market, a drug market especially, where people can buy like fentanyl and stuff, and you do that for like 6 years, eventually you're going to slip up somewhere. And all it takes is one breadcrumb, and law enforcement, they can make a whole apple pie. They can find everything. And I think that's something he screwed up somewhere. We don't really know where yet. Some of some of what I saw alluded to the fact that may have been some sort of timing analysis with cryptocurrency. I did see on Dread that there was discussion that it may have been something with Tor where his guard node, his Tor guard might have been leaked. Something might have happened. We're not really sure yet, but somehow he got caught, right? So I'm not really sure. I mean, long term, yes, we're better and better. Like protocols are being, developed. Tor is definitely not perfect. So I'm not really sure like what the future holds for something like that. As we go on, there seems to be more and more markets, better education overall. Like the markets have gotten so much better even over the past like 5 years. So I'll give you a little example of how the feds have done this in the past. So there is this market called Hansa Market. Have you ever heard of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they got taken down by the feds. And the feds actually took over their servers and operated the market for like a couple months and to catch like vendors and stuff. So this is actually a successful honeypot operation. And what they did is, first off, the encryption on the website, it was one of those push to encrypt your text things. So they just compromised that. So basically, people thought they were encrypting their stuff. They weren't. So like, they could
Yeah.
just like read all the messages being sent on the site. So that was bad. But also, they put out this like tool that vendors could use where you would download like a CSV file and you could like organize your sales. But if you were to actually download the file and open it, your IP address would get leaked. They literally
Oh,
they sent malware essentially to vendors, and because of that, a bunch of vendors got arrested. So like that's the kind of games being played where like it's this cat and mouse game of like trying to catch as much people as possible, and monitoring people for a slam dunk case. So this guy for Archetype Market, he may have been doxxed like 4 years ago, but they couldn't build a case on him yet, right? So they were monitoring him. They're doing everything they could to like build their case. So it's really difficult to say without like knowing the court documents and everything, which I'm not sure if we ever will know, right? So I think long term though, you will just see incremental improvements with these dark net markets. You'll see different protocols come in. Hopefully we get more and more people building on Tor and I2P. It's still very unfriendly for users. I do see though like a shift that will happen long term where like the ClearNet's just going to become unusable. Like I'm already kind of starting to see it. Like we have Twitter basically as like that's kind of cool. They kind of threw us a bone with Twitter recently where they now allow like free speech somewhat. 4chan, I guess you can kind of post on. It's a shithole, but it's still like you gotta have some freedom of speech there. But I mean, man, like Reddit. I don't know if you guys have gone on Reddit lately.
oh boy.
It is horrid. It might be the worst website ever created. Like it is like all bots, and it's horrible. And unfortunately, like Monero, like there's still a lot of people who post on Monero there. That's where people rally around. So it's nice that we are starting to have more people use like IRC and Matrix and stuff, and hopefully we see that more of that push because, man, I don't know, man. Anything like ClearNet adjacent, I think is just going to get worse and worse over time.
Yeah, the Reddit case is very sad. I mean, at some point it was a very good and helpful, I don't know, forum. Like,
In the beginning, it was great.
yeah,
Yeah.
but nowadays, yeah, it's horrible.
I mean, they used to have a subreddit called Darknet Markets where you could like get your instructions on how to install Tails and how to have a good operational security and use Darknet Markets. So, and then like eventually you have this enshittification where it just gets worse and worse. And I totally agree. The ClearNet, also with the influence of Google and with their Manifest V2 or whatever, like it's going so bad. And I really try to go out of my way to avoid these centralized services. If I watch YouTube videos, I do it through GreyJ on my Graphene OS de-Googled phone. And I mean, I like the videos, the videos are great. Some channels are really great, but I don't like watching advertisements. I don't like being tracked. I don't want them to create a digital profile of me and then sell me all their crap. So, yeah. And also what you just said with the Hansa market, I think it was an interview with Doing Fed Time with Huck Bunter,
Yeah.
where they talked about this. And this was so interesting because what the feds did here, what law enforcement did, they embedded an image in the CSV. But this image was just a link to a server controlled by them. So if you open this CSV with like Excel on a system that didn't have like a system level Tor or a VPN, you would just leak your IP address. And so to me, this was just fascinating with what simple tools or tricks they can use to trip you up and then basically compromise your entire operational security.
Yeah, it's the difference between targeted surveillance and passive surveillance. I mean, there's levels to this, man. Like something like that I would never even really think of. But like, yeah, like when you get like someone who's operating an illegal drug operation making millions of dollars, you better believe that the deep state is doing things that, are crazy. You mentioned Doing Fed Time. He had another video out recently about how you can like figure out someone's password based on their CPU fan.
Yeah.
Like literally you can listen to their fan, just the fan. I mean, what? Like it's Yeah, it's not good, man. It's craziness, but like they have a lot of weapons at their disposal. The interesting part though is legally can they do these things? And they run into issues where they need like warrants and like they need stuff through the court and that's where they I think they run into most of their problems. So like I do believe that there are ways that they are figuring out like for example this archetype market, they may have they may have had like a few suspects based on whatever different tools they're using, but they couldn't like prove it for sure. And they may have just been monitoring this guy and like somehow he like maybe revealed his identity or something, and they were able to like get a warrant and like raid his server or whatever. But I really have no idea. But yeah, that Hansa stuff is crazy. Definitely check out that interview with Hug Bunter because they made that before Archetype was taken down. And so they didn't even know it was a Fed op, but they were pretty convinced it was, and it ended up being that way. So
Oh,
Yeah. It was just in a period where it wasn't up, right? But you weren't quite sure what had happened, that they recorded it.
yeah, because it was like just weird stuff happening. Because like if a market goes down, that's common because of like DDoSing and stuff. But if the admin starts acting weird, like you can kind of
Hmm.
tell, right? Again, it comes back to like if you can kind of tell if someone's being authentic or not. And he was just saying like weird things, but he was signing it with his PGP, I believe. So it's kind of like, huh, maybe that is him. But there was like other weird stuff that was happening, so they eventually figured out that his PGP probably got compromised. Which yeah, that can happen too. He probably did that to like lower his sentence because I'm assuming he's facing quite a bit of time. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. And he's
It's
probably
like,
not gonna get pardoned like Ross did. So
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it depends like where like I don't know if you heard about the Intel broker guy. That was another one where
Yeah.
he I mean he's doing crimes in like multiple countries. So I'm not even really sure how that works because I think he has to serve time in one country, then he can get extradited somewhere else. So
Jesus.
yeah, I think he's like yeah, I have no idea. So
boy.
uh it'll be interesting to
So,
see, I guess, but yeah. I don't think he's gonna get parred like Ross though now.
yeah. So about these turnstile of darknet markets, are you familiar with Open Bazaar and the approach that they wanted to go with? Because I think this project is not around anymore, but the approach was interesting in the sense that instead of having decentralized servers where, it's kind of like the Coinbases or Krakens where you can sign up and offer your merchandise. You have more a software like Bisq or Haveno, where you are hosting your own marketplace and connecting or federating with other people who are doing the same thing to offer you goods or take offers. But I think Open Bazaar is not around anymore. And I mean, if you're not familiar with the case, that's totally fine too. But I'm curious why this seemingly more robust approach is not taking root yet.
Taking root for like dark net markets.
Yeah, like replacing the centralized approach.
Well, I think because if you're looking at it from that perspective, then really only vendors would benefit from that, right? Because you would be self-hosting your own like drug sale thing, right? Instead of
Mhm.
hosting it on a darknet market. Am I getting this right? Is this what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, so the problem with that is that's way harder than just having a contact information through an encrypted chat because they could just do that, and that's kind of what's
Hmm.
happening. So like these vendors, what they do is they go on multiple darknet market sites. They don't just go on one exclusively. Well, actually, some of them could do that if they get like a they might get like an exclusivity fee or whatever. But what they do is they go in like multiple markets, but they also have like contact information. And what actually happens a lot of the time is like someone who's buying drugs from a guy will just say, "Hey, send me your signal or send me your whatever session or," and then they'll just get that and they'll just contact them directly for drugs. Um, it's very common. So I think that that's just a lot easier. I don't really think a lot of people want to be spending the time to do a lot of research into running their own market, especially when it's like very illegal. Because drugs, I mean, a lot different than like selling candles or whatever, whatever you're selling on Open Bazaar or whatever. It's just I don't really think it's that realistic. Furthermore, you also have just sites on the ClearNet you can use that still has that peer-to-peer stuff. XMR Bazaar, as far as I know, is based off of Open Bazaar. It's basically the same thing. I think that's where Doug got most of his influence because back in a while ago, he had interviewed the Open Bazaar guys on Monero Talk. Maybe I hallucinated that. That happened. That was like one of his earlier shows, I believe. So I think that's where he got most of his influence. But I mean, as we progress, though, obviously the ClearNet is being, slowly absorbed by these nefarious forces, and we will have to do more stuff on Tor and I2P. And as for myself, like I'm trying to, improve my knowledge on Tor and I2P just because I really think this is where things are going. Where like to actually encrypt your information, you're going to have to bare minimum like really do a lot of research on how Tor works and how I2P works, and even just like VPNs and like hardening your OPSEC that way, which I wouldn't really recommend because VPNs aren't like as trustworthy as using an open source protocol like Tor. But yeah, it's crazy like the amount of like data that's being collected, by your ISP. They're just like sitting there watching you.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of insane that how like we kind of just go along with it, or at least most people do.
My thought was maybe it's not like time for those decentralized solutions yet. Like we first need like a good, well and wide accepted like decentralized cache system basically. And now we are like seeing okay like an on-off ramp with like Haveno with this like which is very usable for somewhat techie people, but the non-techie people are still like struggling with that. And when that improves, then like you get like more possibilities and maybe Monero improves more and gets more use. And then at some point, like when like states get more totalitarian and restrictive, then maybe the need and the technical possibilities arise to build like a decentralized marketplace or something.
Yeah, so I'm doing like kind of a review or a recap of MoneroCon. And what I just watched the talk that was done by HBS, I think his name was. He's doing like atomic swaps for Ethereum and Monero. And the thing is, the earlier application was done by this developer. Her name is Newt, and she made this atomic swap protocol between Monero and Ethereum. It was only used 12 times, and it was probably all just like test transactions. There's no demand for it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the problem here because we have to separate like actual free market demand versus like the ideal, right?
Yeah.
And the ideal circumstance is having atomic swaps, but like it's just way easier to use a CoinSwap website. And so until those CoinSwap websites, very simple that anyone can do, but like going through the process of like you're talking about like Open Bazaar, I really don't believe that like someone would learn how to do self-hosting on Tor like that. Dude, that's like a lot of work. Like I know like I can do that, you can do that, but like for the average person, that's like 13 different things they have to learn how to do. Most of these people are using Windows still. Or they don't even have a desktop. They're using their phones. like you know what I mean? So it's really, really hard. There's like a lot of barriers there. And that being said, though, yeah, as the walls continue to close in, because you will see more demand for it, you will see more people using it. And I do want my like YouTube channel to get more beginner friendly. That's a criticism I've received a lot from people who want to learn more, and I'm realizing like I gotta make this easier for people, right? So I will be putting out like more content just to like learn how to do things like that. Like how do I go on IRC through Tor, something like that, which there really aren't that many guides on YouTube about. I found out, so like learning how to do these things I think is like absolutely crucial in the long term. In the short term though, yeah, you're not really seeing that much usage of atomic swaps because they're just not really needed. You also mentioned like Haveno, right? I find a Rito swap. They rebranded. Like a Rito swap, I think is like extremely easy. I think it's like very very straightforward. But like, yeah, like I have to like look at it from the perspective of somebody who has absolutely no idea how any of this works. And that's a lot. And like when you look at it from that perspective, it's like, oh, okay. Like we still have a lot of room for improvement here because like there's levels, right? And this is like very difficult for somebody who's completely new. So yeah, I think that like in general, things like Sarai and basic swap, I do think these will grow in popularity over time, but it's going to take a while to get there for sure.
Yeah, I think that's one of the like strongest arguments from your manifesto, that most of the darknet market users are like Joe the mechanic, who are not using Monero or the darknet because they think it's so great. They're so enthusiastic about the cypherpunk spirit, but simply out of necessity, because like that's the only thing that works, that the only thing that they can use. So yeah, I totally agree with your point there that people will flock to whatever is the easiest, whatever has the least barriers to entry. And maybe it will take a complete crackdown on all these, like every door that can be kicked down will be kicked down. And then only then the truly decentralized alternatives will become used, because they are less convenient. But if they are the only thing that still works, well, that's what people are going to use. And this kind of brings me to like this next topic that I want to touch on. Where do you see the world evolving to? You know, sometimes when I read the news and I read, oh, EU wants to now regulate this, regulate that, to make life for cryptocurrency users that much more difficult, I really become kind of depressed and
You're becoming
disenchanted
jaded.
with like, I mean, yeah, totally. I'm totally becoming jaded. And to me, like this was also the reason why I said, okay, I'm going to leave Germany. Like I'm not living there anymore. I'm just perpetually traveling the world right now. And I wonder what will happen like down the line in 5 years, in 10 years. Will we really walk into this world where we have BlockFi that is completely bolted down, where yes, you can use Bitcoin, but only the whitelisted Bitcoin. Like they're gonna introduce a whitelist, and if you're not on that list, you're per like definition already a criminal. And then you will have like the very dark underbelly that is using like encryption and will be heavily criminalized. Like, do you see this world where, hey, you're using Monero, you're using like a encrypted messenger without having validated your phone number? Well, you're basically a criminal. Like this adversarial
yeah,
environment. Do you see this happening?
But you know, the playbook right now, this is the playbook. It's KYC only, or KYC as much as possible, and villainizing self-custody. I think those two things we can all agree on. That's what's happening in the Western world right now. I really don't know much about like China and Russia. I'm assuming China's doing similar things as well, right? Where they're really trying to prevent people from using peer-to-peer cash amongst themselves, or at least they're trying to push that narrative. Whether or not it will be illegal, I don't know. I actually don't think so, because this will be really hard for them to prove in court. I think they're going to just try to make it as difficult as possible for normal people to onboard on a peer-to-peer cash. They're going to try to like make it so that like exchanges want to deal with all that regulatory, nonsense. Instead, they're just not going to list certain cryptocurrencies because they're not, approved or anything. So I think like the workaround for the state is to try to like chip away at the usage of these cryptocurrencies by making it just harder to get. Now, is that going to work or not? Well, the problem here is that eventually you're going to see like exchanges want to list Monero because they'll make a profit because people will be using Monero, so they'll be able to get like a fee off that. So I'm not really sure if this is going to work in the long term, because eventually you're going to see entrepreneurs say, "Hey, let's just take Monero. This isn't illegal." And as far as I can tell, I don't see how they can win this in court. Where saying you can say Monero is illegal based on everything I've read about code and how code is law and all that, right? It's free speech.
Yeah.
So I don't think the courts want to deal with that. It's very interesting though what's happening right now with Samurai Wallet and Tornado Cash. These are very important cases, and they're going to set precedent. And so I'm absolutely monitoring these cases because this is how they're going to try to weasel their way into our rights. Is they're going to try to win cases through these court systems. And yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely excited to like win these cases, right? Because if we start winning, we can start putting momentum back into like peer-to-peer cash. I think though a bigger problem isn't necessarily the state doing this, but it's like moonboyism in general, and like people just don't want to use cryptocurrency. I think this is like actually a bigger issue. Like most people, they just don't really care about cryptocurrency as far as using it, and it's really hard to get over that hump, right? Like to convince somebody, hey, use crypto instead of buying and holding it. Because for example, if somebody wants to send somebody else money, it's very convenient for them to use something like Cash App or Venmo. It just is, or PayPal, or it's like literally you point to somebody, hey, my bank account will send your bank account money. I mean that's like ideal for most people. So to actually like get over that hump and convince people to hey, use peer-to-peer cash is difficult. So because of that, my whole kind of focus here with especially with anti-moonboyism is to not really worry about onboarding as many people as possible, but rather kind of just taking our niche subgroup and like organically growing over time. I think that's just how we can really build usage over time in a way that isn't like trying to think of like global adoption. Like we're not trying to change the world overnight because it's just unrealistic. So yeah, I do agree though. Like over time, like yeah, the state they're going to just be chipping away with these like anti-money laundering legislation, as we've already seen. I do believe we will see more legislation coming out in this administration that's going to be very against privacy, and it's gonna become harder and harder. I did see that the other day Senator Lummis put out some bill about tax free for Bitcoin under $300. I don't know if you guys heard about that. So there might be some like good things coming out of this. That would be great if that passes. I haven't read the bill though, so it's probably filled with really bad things, as they usually do. As they usually do, they usually like weasel in like only if you do KYC, Like, okay. But anyway, yeah, I think it's kind of a little of both. Where on the one hand, yeah, you're going to see more laws coming in, but on the other hand, you're not seeing people using cryptocurrency. And I think that is really what we should be focusing on as well.
So, like to clarify what, or like ask you a clarifying question. So you're like preferring like the natural growth, i.e., adoption increasing with all the people using it, like adhering to the cypherpunk spirit, instead of like just onboarding people to, I don't know, Wallet of Satoshi, or just people buying the Bitcoin ETF and calling that adoption?
Well, that's going to happen regardless. I think like my focus is on just onboarding people the right way, and like that other stuff is going to happen regardless if I say don't do that or not, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I think wasting energy on like saying don't do that is a good thing. Like having educational material is great, but at the same time, I also think it's really important to just be like focusing on our small organic adoption, because things start to get messy once you start saying like in 5 years from now the world's going to run on the blockchain. It's like, dude, no, it's not. The world is not going to be running on the blockchain 5 years from now, maybe 100 years from now, but like we got a lot of work to do, and once you start like pushing for things like that, that's when you get centralization, because that's the only way you can maintain these sorts of fantasies.
I have a great analogy. So in the office I used to work at, we would buy lunches, order them from Uber Eats or whatever. And usually one person orders, they pay for the entire order. And I always used to pay my share to the friend who ordered in Monero. And I think this is a great mechanism on the one hand for me to cash out, use it as cash and take some gains or whatever. And for the other person to have this like dollar cost averaging effect of slowly increasing their stack of Monero. And I talked with Hundehausen in the last episode, and he also told me that For him, this is the main use case of Monero, that in his friend group, he onboarded his peers and they make each other even through Monero. So one person pays in fiat and the other people reimburse them in Monero. And just to add to this, so in this lunch ordering thing, there were some people, of course, who used PayPal for the reimbursement. And one time they ordered kebab from a place called Damascus, which is the name of the restaurant, but it's also the capital of Syria. And so the guy who sent the PayPal to the person who paid wrote in the payment reason Damascus. And you know what happened? His PayPal account got frozen.
What?
And PayPal was like, please explain this transaction. Are you financing terrorism or whatever? And to me, this goes to show these centralized services like the Venmos, the PayPals, whatever, they are great for as long as they work. But they have this risk that people are not seeing most of the time, that it could end at any minute, that their account is frozen. They're basically unpersoned and they have to go into explaining mode and trying to justify what a given amount of money comes from. And at that point in time, I think they're really receptive to something as like a Monero, because you won't have that problem there.
That's a good example of how to onboard people that don't even really know about cryptocurrency. This is uncensorable money. Yeah, this dweeb over here, he's dealing with terrorism charges now because he's using PayPal. And that's pretty funny. And it's actually I can draw a parallel of that too, because a lot of Bitcoiners feel the same way about sending Bitcoin using a centralized custodial wallet, that it's uncensorable Bitcoin. Well, what if that Bitcoin transaction gets flagged for being linked to terrorism or whatever, right? It could actually affect them as well, and they're probably not even aware of that. And because of that, they're still kind of in this belief that Bitcoin is fungible. Even if they don't know what the word fungible means, that's what they think, that Bitcoin is anonymous and that they can just use it however they want. When the reality is, there's Bitcoin can be indirectly attacked through blockchain forensics and things of that nature, and that's why we need something like Monero or privacy protocols built on Bitcoin like Ashigaru.
Mm-hmm. So the last point I'm really curious about is, so we have seen Haveno or RitoSwap offering a new alternative to exchange fiat for Monero directly. But I wonder, suppose, okay, you are now required to have a money transmitter license. And I think in the United States, you also have a little bit of a different landscape in terms of laws than in Europe. This free speech thing, we don't have it in Europe. People go to prison for tweets or offensive memes that they post. So it's quite a different story there. And I wonder, I see this weakness. Okay, you have this decentralized marketplace and I want to now buy Monero, and I go on there and I select an offer and I buy some. But what if the other person is an undercover merchant who is secretly noting down my bank details or whatever, and then one day I get a knock at the door? So what I want to say with this is these solutions that we seemingly have in place now, if Monero is really, or this entire privacy space is really cracked down on, I wonder how resilient it will be to that kind of crackdown. And I guess my question to you is, do you think Monero is resilient enough today, or in a year from now when we have full chain membership proofs, to resist that kind of state crackdown?
I think the state could take down Monero pretty easily in many different ways, to be honest with you. They could just spam attack Monero and basically make Monero not private at all. What they could do is they could just essentially order every ISP to block the Monero ports. You could just crash the network overnight if they really wanted to. There's a lot of different things they could do. They could take the repos off of GitHub, which for whatever reason Monero is still on GitHub instead of some other alternative. You know what I mean? If the state really wanted to, they could take Monero down, I think, pretty easily. Regarding what you're saying though with RitoSwap, yeah, you're right. If you're if you're buying Monero off of like somebody who's like logging your information, you are giving them a limited amount of information. This is true. So if you're buying with like Zelle, for example, or whatever, you're giving your banking information. Yeah. The thing though is, in this case, you're dramatically lowering the chances of this being a problem because in the KYC exchange, you know for a fact all your information is being logged. Or in this case, there's just a chance that the person you're dealing with might be selling you Monero. Furthermore, if you're being smart about it, I guess, and like not buying $100,000 worth of Monero all at once, it's gonna go through the cracks, I would imagine. Like would a federal law enforcement operation really go after somebody buying $1,000 worth of Monero through like Zelle? Maybe they would. I think if we were to ever get to that point, we're gonna have defenses, right? Because that's kind of the thing. Like this stuff doesn't happen in like overnight. It's usually kind of like a slow kind of push for that. So like you're eventually gonna have like Sarai being used, right? Where it's just like a liquidity pool. Like, yeah, how are you gonna stop that? I mean, I guess there could be ways that they could do it, but as we progress further and further, we're going to be having more and more demand for these like peer-to-peer applications. And as we get more and more demand for these peer-to-peer applications, we're going to have ways to get around this, bureaucratic nonsense, or in this case, potential adversaries like trying to sabotage it. Right. So I view this as a long-term issue that it's a cat and mouse game. Once attacks are made, we'll have defenses, and we'll kind of like slowly move on from there. So yeah, I'm frankly not too familiar with like the European laws. I did just see there's like all these arrests because people made some messages in Germany or something. That was kind of crazy. So yeah, it's not good.
I want to
it's
like
crazy.
second your point, Zeno, because like if we take a look at the GDR in Germany, like when it was split in West and East, even in the very totalitarian and like surveilled eastern part, there was still a darknet, or like not a darknet market, but a black market. And like the amount of like state actors was so high in the population, and you still had people doing this stuff. So I think even if it goes again into the cycle where we have like lots of state actors among us, we still will find solutions for that. Like maybe we don't really know yet how the situation will then look, but I'm very sure we will always have black markets or dark markets and solutions for using cryptography to just be pre-humans.
Yeah, and also like peer-to-peer drug markets are just a sliver of the overall drug economy.
Yeah.
I do mention this briefly in Darknet Market Maximalism, where we're just kind of observing like the traditional like drug markets, but it's like so much bigger than that because like you have like all these like foreign crime syndicates where you can't really easily find information on them, but they're like laundering like billions of dollars in stable coins for the most part. Actually, like in China, there was these 2 markets that got taken down. I think they already went back up, and that's all happening on Telegram, and they're mostly using like Tether to do that. Now, is it going to last forever? No, they're going to continue to be attacked. And now with the Stablecoin Act that just passed through Congress, I believe that we're going to see more and more things happening to prevent Tether just being exchanged for ransomware or whatever they're selling. But right now, like there's so much more happening, and Monero is actually kind of like a small portion of it. Now, of course, the sale of like narcotics is like a pretty big deal, and that's why you need like very intense OPSEC for that, which is why I'm focused on it, because over time that OPSEC is going to be needed in a greater surface area, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, but like right now, like stable coins are being used a ton in black markets, and a lot of these are like, well, I think all of them are transparent, right?
Yeah. I
mean,
there's
I'm not familiar with them, but I
FUSD or
would
something
assume so, yeah.
now, but I don't think it gets used that much at the moment. But
yeah,
I think that's actually a really interesting point. Like these existing black market entities, the drug cartels or whatever. Like I used to watch some documentaries on them, and a huge problem that they had was like how do we get the money back? Like, okay, now we shipped the cocaine to the US and we sold it in Miami, and now we want to get the profits. Like, and then you have to, I don't know, hide it in some tire wheel, or I don't know, like somehow get the cash back. And cryptocurrencies are like a prime candidate to solve that issue. Like, okay, getting the drugs in is one issue, but getting the money out will be a non-issue because it's just digital, right? It exists in cyberspace. So are they maybe bound to onboard to
Yeah,
something
they're
like
turned off by
Monero
the
soon?
volatility. That's like the big issue with it. But yeah, I would imagine I would
Hmm.
imagine they're already using it to some capacity. But for the laundering, yeah, there's a lot of different ways they can launder money or cryptocurrency. I read this one article about it was actually like these Chinese nationals that were getting money from the Mexican cartels acting as like drug mules, and then they would take the dollars and send it directly to China using some like foreign bank loophole because they were I don't know why they were able to do this, but they were able to send like millions of dollars over to China without it being like KYC'd at all or something. And then they took that money, went to China and they bought like shoes or something. They laundered the money to this company that was owned by the cartel. And so the cartel sold them shoes or it was something like that. And then they got the money that way. So they have these like operations that are like crazy involving multiple countries where they have like these cartels that have relationships with these gangs in like China or whatever, and then they like they sell stuff to each other to like launder the money. But that's just like one example. There's like all these different other ways they can do it, and yeah, of course, it also involves cryptocurrency. But what's obviously difficult about cryptocurrency is the adoption rates aren't as high, so that's an issue. And you know, if they're using transparent cryptocurrency, they're leaving everything on a ledger, right?
True.
Mhm. All right, fascinating stuff. One topic I also wanted to touch on in the beginning, you mentioned you like to read, and with all your podcasting, I mean, it's quite clear that you have this crypto anarchist background, and I'm really interested in like, do you have any philosophical influencers, like people that you read that really shape the way you think about the
I don't know. I
world,
mean,
or
I've kind of dabbled in
yeah.
a lot of different things. I like my writing style is mostly influenced by Melville. Actually, if you've ever read the book Moby Dick, it's the greatest book ever. I read like just a lot of like
Yeah.
classic literature like that. Like Faulkner is really cool. Scott Fitzgerald is pretty based. Um, so yeah, I really like a lot of that. But in terms of like philosophy, um, I read like a decent amount of like what Plato was writing for Aristotle and like um like Aristotle and like things of that nature where like the early foundations of like democracy and stuff. So Socrates was who Plato was writing for, right? Because Plato was a student for Socrates, and so then Aristotle as well. I think I'm getting that right. And then so like that early stuff. I like the Stoicism kind of stuff as well. Um, I guess I haven't really read too much on like philosophy. For political stuff, like I have kind of dabbled with like Rothbard and stuff. But mostly like listen to like audio tapes actually. I haven't like really sat down and like read one of his books like front to back, I guess. Um most of like my crypto anarchist kind of beliefs are just influenced by like hanging out in IRC chats. I'm like completely serious. Like
Oh,
it's
interesting.
kind of like just by me existing and understanding free open source software, I'm like I've kind of built my own philosophy, which I share with you guys as well, where it's kind of just like the best way to protest against the state is using free open source software because it's something you can actually do right now. It's
Yeah.
I think it's much more valuable than voting. you know, it's like because this is something that has a direct impact
Yes.
and it's something that
For
they don't
sure.
like, and it's yeah, it's something anyone can do right now. It doesn't really take much effort. It does take effort though. That's the barrier. But yeah, learning about Linux, learning about cryptocurrency and self-hosting, I think is like incredibly powerful to do, and it puts you ahead of like basically everybody. like like we are basically like a very small group of people. But I think this is going to become more and more important over time as information becomes more and more controlled, especially with like how the clearnet's looking more and more like Reddit. Reddit's gonna basically that the type of like architecture around Reddit is a template for how the entire internet's going to look over time. I think.
Yeah, so I have a great recommendation. What I did is I'm the same way. Like I love listening to audiobooks. I've actually read quite a bit of Rothbard and like the Austrian School of Economics. And there is this application called Audio Bookshelf, which is a self-hosted application where you can upload audiobooks, kind of like an audio bookshelf, and then you have an app on your Android that you can locally download an audiobook and just listen to it. And there is this website called Mises.org, which is an homage to Ludwig von Mises, like the economist, and they have tons of audiobooks about from people like Rothbard or Mises or Hayek or I don't like Hayek so much, but Rothbard is great. And what I did is like I wrote a little script to crawl the website and get all of the MP3 files, then make them into an audiobook and just upload them to my self-hosted audio bookshelf. And now I have this really great library of economic treatises that is completely like I got it for free, and that's totally legal too because they know that intellectual property is a lie, and now I can listen to it whenever I want. And yeah, I think this is a great thing if you are into audiobooks. Audio bookshelf is definitely
awesome.
something that you can look into.
Mises, yeah, him as well. Like I actually went to school for economics, so that's probably actually where I got a lot of my opinions formed, I guess, because I was just like really annoyed by fiat, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to college for economics, and then I realized that no one has any idea how any of this works. Like that was what I learned from going to university. I was like, oh wow, this is crazy. But yeah, Mises.org I've read quite a bit of actually. So yeah, I like to check that out. It sounds pretty cool.
I think it's really time for like a decentralized version of
ahead.
like Wikipedia or like the Library of Alexandria, basically. Because like with like Reddit, it was for quite some time a very good like resource for informations, but now it's like gone to shit, and a lot of like stuff moved to Discord where you can't really search it. So there is like and Wikipedia is heavily like censored in a certain direction and moderated. So
yeah, it's kind of like this moderation problem, right? That if you have a centralized service and like it's either you have child pornography or you have moderation. And if you have moderation, it's just like either a question of time or a degree to how heavily it will be moderated. And I wonder if there is a good solution for it. Like maybe, I don't know, when I think about these things, like something like Nostr, okay, it's a decentralized protocol. Anybody could post anything and it's impossible to censor really. Like you can not connect to a relay, but the information is still going to be out there. But how do you prevent then Sybil attacks? And when I think about these, I find myself often like turning in a circle and not really coming to, oh my God, this is the way to do it.
Yeah, I think anything can be attacked though, right? So there's really no like perfect situation. So I think the best thing is then to just try to surround yourself with like-minded people, And I mostly just hang out in like Monero, like chat rooms, I guess, like through the IRC. Well, I've been using Matrix, but I'm using the Element plugin. It's so bloated, like I can't stand it anymore. So I think I'm switching to IRC only. Actually, I've had enough of Element. But those rooms are pretty cool because it's like fellow cypherpunks and stuff. I am on Twitter too, where like it's kind of nice, like where I'm at, but like I can tell like it's only a matter of time, right? where before they start to censor everything again. And as it is, Twitter is not the best way to spend my time. No, it's kind of yeah. But yeah, I think like anything can be like attacked, right? So trying to like go after something that is like perfect is not the best way of doing it. But probably the better way is trying to gather like-minded people in areas and then adapting from there.
True.
I recently installed Dark IRC. Have you heard of this? It's like the IRC client that was developed for DarkFi, and it's basically IRC, but you don't have identities, so anybody could post as anybody, and they're trying to do this in order to keep their developers anonymized and prevent this crackdown, for example, that Samurai is experiencing right now, because of course, if you cannot be observed, then it's very hard to kick down your door. And so do you see this also, that maybe developers of these maybe controversial cypherpunk technologies have to go into like not really hiding, but really care about their OPSEC,
it's funny you
even if
mentioned
they're
the
just writing code?
DarkFi thing, because I was literally reading the documentation for that last night. I think I'm gonna make a video on that actually, because I was gonna check out because there wasn't really much.
Nice.
I think there was like one YouTube video about it, but I figured I would check it out. What actually won me over was Amir Taki said on Twitter that one of their lead developers is the code developer, or one of the lead developers for Suckless. I was like, oh, that's based. All right, fine. I'll check it out then. Yeah, I know. Well, I was already like, I was paying attention. That was like, all right, fine. I'll download the stupid IRC. But I was reading about it, so it was funny you mentioned that. But anyways, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I will tell you that there are some Monero researchers who are phenomenal at OPSEC. I won't name names, but like, because I communicate with different people in Monero and stuff. And some of them, like, I have absolutely no idea anything about them. You know what I mean? Where it's like, they're always out through Tor, right? They're like self-hosting everything. They don't have any like personality to how they type. You know what I mean? Like, there's no like, it's very general. They're always on at different times. It's very impressive. I feel like I'm not good enough to do that. Like I screw up in different ways, but like I've noticed that. And so why are they doing this? Or do they just do this for everything? You know what I mean? Like, or is this just how they are? I'm not really sure. So I think that there's actually a lot of developers who are already doing that. They're just very low key about it. I don't know much about the DarkFi development, to be honest with you. But yeah, I know Amir Taki's working on it, and there's other guys in that space who are very anonymous and stuff. Yeah, I mean, the Samurai Wallet thing is crazy because like it seems to me that they are very much expanding what like the way that they're essentially saying is that because there were people who were using their service for drugs, because they took a fee from that, they were profiting off of drug trade. And that's just like a ridiculous concept because like we use like the post office, like the postal service, like we use that, and like people sell drugs through the postal service, but like it's not like the postal service exists for the drug trade. It's kind of a ridiculous argument. So the fact that they're actually able to take that argument and apply it to these people and like potentially throw them in jail for like 20 plus years is like it's kind of insane. And it can absolutely happen to people in Monero as well. Because if you think about like if a developer, made something for Monero and then on Twitter they said, yeah, we know people are using this on the darknet. Would that be enough information to then like throw them in jail or charge them under the same type of crime because they perhaps made money in donations for like the CCS proposal to, produce that like thing for Monero? I don't see why that also couldn't happen. So you are right where like we could start to see developers start to be targeted. One issue with that though is you would have a Streisand effect by them attacking developers. It would actually make more people interested in Monero. So it would probably be easier for them to subvert the project and try to distance people away from peer-to-peer cash and instead number go up.
Yeah, that's quite interesting to think about it, because I mean, yes, there would be a Streisand effect, but also there would be a chilling effect, right? This chilling effect where other people in the space see, oh my God, like they busted this guy. I better stop what I'm doing right now. And after the arrest of Samurai, there were quite a few people in the space, I noticed, that shut down their operation completely. Like there is one YouTuber from Germany who he was doing a lot of content on Samurai and he just vanished. Like, got spooked by it. And there's also that, like, where you can make an example out of one person and influence like 100 or 1,000 other people who simply won't open their mouth now of
Yeah,
fear of
you're
getting the
100%
same
spot on with
treatment.
that. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it can also have a chilling effect. So, yeah, overnight, like you had like 4 or 5 different Bitcoin services like shut down operation, because they were like, oh, we don't want to be targeted now that Samurai Wallet went under.
The Wasabi
Yeah, I
coin
forget.
join, they did this,
I don't
right?
know if they're still existing or not. Yeah, I don't recall. I know though, like Sparrow Wallet, they took down their Whirlpool integration. You had some Lightning Network services shut down because they were concerned with the wording um, of the Samurai Wallet indictment. Yeah, it can have the opposite effect as well. Um, the only thing I would say though is that it would then force people to rally around a project that is still fighting back. And so in that case, like Bitcoin probably wouldn't be that rallying point just because it's transparent and like it's not embedded enough. Um, but if it happened to Monero, yeah, I don't know. I mean, would we continue to rally around Monero or would we go somewhere else? I'm not really sure. It's an interesting thought though.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like also this arrest for Samurai, it made me question, like, I was doing a podcast also talking about Monero and, fuck the state. And we briefly touched on this with the German government being kind of allergic to, let's say, criticism. And I also had this point where I was asking myself, hey, I at that point was living in Germany. Do I want to be doing that? And for a while, I was kind of quiet because I didn't want to be the head, that sticks out, who is the first to get whacked. And now, I mean, I made the move and quit Germany, so I feel a little bit more courageous now. But yeah, for sure. Like at the end of the day, I guess we're all humans and we have ideals and we want to bring them
At what
into
cost?
reality. But I don't envy Ross Ulbricht for spending like 11 years of his life in
Yeah,
jail
yeah.
either.
It's like you gotta either fight against the state and be a martyr, or kind of just observe from the sidelines. Which is not like I'm not like criticizing people for making that choice. Like the people at Sparrow Wallet are probably pretty based. Like they probably have like families and stuff. It's just like I can understand why why they don't want to fight the state on something like that. It's also beneficial too for people who are anonymous in this
Right.
situation. Like I am like pseudonymous, right? Like I have my name Xenu and stuff. I'm sure that it would be trivial to figure out who I am. like I use Twitter and stuff. Like I really, you know what I mean? Like it's whatever. Like yeah, at a certain point you kind of figure like okay, like you can either like live for something in this situation and like actually do something good for the greater good of people and stuff, or you can kind of like kind of shy away from it. But yeah, it's more comfortable in that situation, right? To kind of just go along with things. Um, I can understand that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's also kind of I hate this so much because that's how they get you, right? Like all it takes is for good
Yeah.
people to do nothing, for evil to succeed. And um, yeah, I think to me, this is kind of like do something. And I found this PDF on the dark web a few years ago where they talked about asymmetrical warfare, where you're like, okay, let's say we fight the state and maybe you don't want to be the head that sticks out, but you can still, subvert in subtle ways or sabotage in subtle ways. And I think,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And
There's
so
always something you
this is
can
kind
do.
of like why like building the culture organically is a great move in this part, because I really do think we're going to start to see more and more people who have absolutely all the time in the world on their hands, because like they don't have work anymore because of AI or whatever. And like there's going to be a lot of people starting to realize that like the cypherpunk kind of movement, it can actually become more mainstream. I actually really believe that. We've seen like Linux, for example, become more mainstream over time. Now you have all these like YouTube channels and stuff. But like just the other day, we had PewDiePie talk about graphene.
Yeah.
For me, that was a white pill. I saw that and I'm like, this is pretty awesome. Where
Yeah.
you have this massive influencer. He uploaded the video. Okay, I
Yeah.
went to this video an hour after he uploaded it. It had almost 7,000 comments. That's how many people watch his content. And here you have
Holy
a
shit.
guy, yeah, and here you have a guy talking about graphene. And not only that, he's like talking he's been talking about Linux lately.
Yeah.
He's like talking about
Self-hosting.
self-hosting. Yeah. And it's kind of like that's awesome. And like if we start to see more and more people doing that, I can actually see this becoming like a popular thing where people want to like, fuck the government. I don't want them seeing all my information. I want to be based. I want to like be on tour and stuff. I honestly think we can reach that point. It will take a while to get there, but this is how you do it. You have to get influencers kind of hyping it up. So it really just comes down to us, building the culture here. And part of that is with cryptocurrency and like treating it like a legitimate thing instead of, number go up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those were great words. Max, do you have any
No, I just wanted
pressing
like to
questions
add
that you want
like
to ask
slightly
Dino?
to his point that if just everybody, if anyone, if everybody is just a little bit more brave or courageous, just a slight little bit, and takes another step into like the freedom direction, then we will all profit from that.
Yeah, take baby steps. You don't
Yeah.
have to do it all at once.
Yeah.
You don't have to become a martyr like at once or like immediately, but just take little baby steps, and everyone does it, or enough people do it, and then maybe we have like a PewDiePie who does like a big step, then we get somewhere, I think.
Yeah, PewDiePie, I mean,
Yeah.
this is so great. Like he's rocking Arch Linux and Hyperland, and I'm also on Hyperland. And like I saw this and I was like, yes, let's go. And like,
Yeah.
is the Monero video incoming?
Well,
What do you think,
I
guys?
think that if you were to make like a poly market betting on like the influencer to talk about Monero first, he's got to be in the front of that pack. Like it's like actually quite possible. This is like kind of moon boyish for me to say, but like I actually think it probably would happen. Because like if he's doing like I haven't really watched his
Yeah.
videos, to be honest. But like I kind of like skimmed through his video on it was one of his videos on Arch. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, he knows what he's doing. Like I was like impressed. Like, when you're seeing stuff like that, it kind of just makes me happy because there's a bunch of like little kids watching that who are going to be influenced by that. And that's pretty awesome, So it was a white pill to see something like that for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he is definitely a genuine guy. You can tell by the way he is in the videos that this is really the person. Like he's not putting an act to gain clout. Like he doesn't need that, right? He has his family. He made a lot of money through YouTube, and now he's just interested in something else, like a higher ideal than making money. And yeah, I think it's also a really big white pill for him to now fall down this rabbit hole. And I'm very curious to where he ends up. All right. Yeah, with that, I think I'm at the end of my questions. And again, Zeno, thank you for taking the time to talk to us. I think it was very insightful. I will put a bunch of links to things we discussed in the video description, so you, dear listener, can go easily check it out. And go and subscribe to Anti-Moonboy podcast if you haven't already, because, I mean, this is, I have this cycle of podcasts that I get obsessed with, and I like download the episode right as it is released and like listen to it ASAP. And for me, Anti-Moonboy is definitely that right now, because I think you're so early with all of the information, and I mean, granted, there's not a lot of competition, but still, I think you're doing a really good job.
Highly
and,
recommend it.
Definitely must
Even
subscribe to your podcast.
Also from me.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on, man. This has been awesome. Good talk, man. Good stuff.